Well, welcome, everybody to the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and my co-host, Jen. Woo! Here we are. Welcome. And you might see us dressed in a little bit of costume here. That's because we are celebrating the holiday. Happy Halloween, everybody. We are getting into the spirit with our Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. So welcome. If you haven't been here before, this is all about life, love, and money matters. And we want to answer your questions. We are here every Thursday. Why? Because we want to help support you. We want to offer a half an hour of free coaching. This is your opportunity to DM your questions to us, and we will answer your questions as we get to them. So, throw up your comments, throw up a like, throw up a heart, throw up an emoji as you're listening to what we have to say today, because we're going to get right into this. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you. Welcome. And you're so cute. What are you? You got some cute ears going on.
Little kitty cat. I didn't put on my whiskers today. I didn't want to put lots of.
You have some, or were you going to draw it?
I was going to. They come out when I get angry. So, and let me ask you, Miss Jen, what are you?
I'm super confused. Yeah. But what I am matching our logo because I got purple, the cranberry pink, and then the green going on. So I match our logo. I'm brand superhero. That's what I am.
Well, cheers. Let's take our life, love, and money and cheers. And I don't know if you guys saw this, but we put out on some of our marketing material. Check this out.
Check those masks out. I wore mine to the gym the other day. I was like so proud.
Oh my gosh. Check these out. You may have an opportunity to win one of these masks from the Life, Love, and Money Show. Woo, woo, woo. So throw up some hearts. It might not be this episode, but it might be the next episode. So we're going to figure it out, and we're going to see how you can win one of our masks. So, all right. So we've got a couple of questions, the good questions. I don't know if we'll get to the second question because this first question is a doozy. There's so much depth to this first question. So maybe we should just jump right into this.
You ready? Yes.
Okay. Awesome. All right. So this first question is, I never have any money because my partner always wants to go out and I end up spending all of my money. How can I explain to her that we can't always go out, or we have to be more aware of how much money we are spending? What if she breaks up with me because I don't want to keep wasting money on things that really have no value? Woo!
Great question.
Loaded question. So many different levels, so many different routes that this has. So let's get right into this because we have some things to say about this. Now, if you haven't been on the show before with us, make sure you throw up a like. Make sure you throw out your questions. We want to hear them as we go through our answer. Okay, so this really calls for a conversation. It calls for a deep conversation with your partner, not one that's judgy or that's going to pass blame or that, first of all, let's take a step back. Let's not worry about whether or not this person is going to break up with you, whether that's male, female, your, girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever. Don't worry. Okay. Because we're building a relationship here. This is all about building the foundation of your relationship or making that relationship stronger. So have a discussion, make it non-blaming, or, don't make it fear-based. It's, if you're uncomfortable, make it a situation where it's a growth opportunity. So the first thing you want to try and do is you and your partner may not even be aware of their spending habits, may not know that they have this behavior or this is a behavior pattern that was established because as you created this relationship, you may have just gotten into this pattern of behavior that was, we'll go out, we'll spend money anytime we want, we'll do A, B, and C. So this was the pattern that was established. This was the behavior that was established. So the awareness may not even be there that they're overspending or that this is a pattern of behavior. So number 2, understand your own values around money. Understand where thoughts, behaviors, and how you feel about money, where it came from. Were you raised with certain thoughts and values about money by your parents, those that raised you, those that taught you in school, your professors? What were you taught about money? How do you feel about money? Your values and beliefs about money and going into relationship and understanding what that is really important. What is also important is having an opportunity to understand your partner's values and beliefs around money. Give them the opportunity to explain to you how they're feeling, where they're coming from about spending, saving, having money, doing fun things, just about having money and their behavior around money. The next step is, and I like to give step by step by step. And the reason being is because it's kind of a strategic map of your beliefs, values, and behavior. So the third step, let her know how you're feeling, or him. Let him or her know how you're feeling by presenting the issue with, I have reviewed our spending practices, and I think we may want to have a talk about how much money is coming in and how much money is going out and what our spending patterns look like. And that may open the communication up for just some engagement, some real non-judgmental, open dialogue. And so the next step, which is a great step, and I'm going to bring Jen into this. Next step, you might suggest building a budget together. Jen, I'm going to bring you into this because you are our financial whiz kid here. Woo, woo, woo. Jen, the money coach. Yes. So what we're going to do is I'm going to ask you, what would you do? What would you suggest about building a budget together, building a spending plan, whatever you want to call it?
Absolutely. You have to have a plan. You have to have a plan in place, because if you're not aware of the money, if you're not even tracking it, that's the question we need to start with. Are you even tracking it? A lot of times, most people will say, not really. You kind of make sure you pay that bill and you hope that you make the deadline. You hope that you make up the cutoff time, the grace period, all those things, but it's not intentional. It's kind of haphazardous. And so when there's no plan in place, and we're just kind of like, here and there, that's where there's no structure. And then that's where fights happen. That's where we start to argue like, well, I thought you were going to take care of this, or, well, how come you didn't do this? And when you don't have any structure, when you haven't taken the time to stop and figure out, what are we doing? What's our spending plan? What's our budget? Those are, words we use synonymously, depending if you want to think the B word's a bad word. But at the end of the day, it's like, do you have a plan in place? Right. And you have to take a look at what money is coming in and what money is going out. You have to, because you cannot fix what you are not aware of. If you don't even know what's going on with the money, what money's leaving the budget, what money is coming in, how can you even create a plan? Like, how can you even, especially if you're the person that feels that like you're the one that seems to be more mindful of the situation, where your partner may be the one that's just frivolously spending here and there. It's going to be very, very critical for you to make sure that you stop and take a look at what's going on, because then I don't like to use the word ammo, but at least your argument will have more solid ground, more footing. Because then when you come to your partner, you can say like, you know what, babe, I took a look. I took a look at our stuff, at our spending, and I really want to build a financial future together. I want to do better with our money, and I want to make sure we're doing the right thing. But I noticed that you want to do this, but it's not. We only have so much money to go around, and so if we're spending all this money here, how can we make sure that these things are taken care of? So, depending on how you structure your conversation, depending on how you're bringing this light at the table, is really going to depend on like, have you done your homework, your research? If you don't plan this, your argument is not going to be as strong, because then it can be construed as, and I know someone's going to go on this, it can be construed as complaining. You're just, it's like, that doesn't get you anywhere. But if you can come to the table with respect, with some numbers, and be like, you know what, I just want to do better. I want to figure this out. This is why it's so critical to do a budget and a plan, because now it's not just you complaining. It's you coming to the table with like, hey, you know what? I took a look at the numbers. This is what it's looking like. And I want to set us up for success. It's all in how you say it. It's not about, you never want to come to an argument sounding like you're just complaining.
Yeah. Right. Well, I think first of all, let's take a little bit of a step back here, because we definitely don't want to see, let's reframe this. We don't want to see this as an argument at all. We want to see this as an opportunity for growth in our relationship and growth with our money. Right? So there's so much we can do here. There's so much you can gain from this conversation. Jen is absolutely right. Research. Come to the table with numbers. Come to the table with feeling unbiased and good about this conversation. Reason being is, don't come into it with fear. Now, if you're coming into it with fear, as this question suggests, I'm afraid of losing my partner because of bringing this up, essentially. If you're coming into it with fear, then there's been something established in that relationship. You have something to be fearful of. And so we're going to go into this a little later about, and Jen touched on this earlier in our other live, about sometimes we have to be more aware of how our partner feels and how we're feeling, because that could really hinder that conversation, how we grow in a relationship, how we grow our money, how we feel about spending. There's so much here. Now, what about, Jen? What about when you think about a budget and we talk about a budget, what about that whole idea of the 50-30-20, where spending no more than 50% of your after-tax income on necessities, no more than 30% on wants, and at least 20% on savings and debt repayment? Have you written about this before?
Yes. I don't even have that book there. Why is that book never around? You know what? It's so funny because I'll be sitting and working, and then I'll see that book gets in the way, and then when I need it, it's never around me. But yeah, I did talk about this in Do Before I Do, which is my latest book about conversations that couples should have about money to avoid fights and breakups. And I love that Summer talks about this and just brought it up, because yes, you will hear 50-30-20 or some different percentage, but you have to remember this is a guideline. These are just some parameters that can kind of guide you. Of course, it's going to depend on your own individual unique situation, where you have to take a look at, okay, this is what we're dealing with. You may not have certain categories that have expenditures, so it's not going to apply to you, but you need some kind of parameter to start from. So use what works for you, adjust accordingly to your own unique situation, but at least it gives you some kind of reference of okay, because for example, if let's say, discretionary income is not going to be 80%. If your percentages are off, it'll give you some kind of idea that, yeah, your numbers are way out of whack. So it just gives you an idea oh, wait, why is this one, they said 20%, but I'm doing 80%. You might want to look into that, because that variance is way too big. But if it's off by a few percentages, then that's a different situation. But you have to adjust it accordingly to your lifestyle, to your unique situation, because everybody's different, but it's a guideline.
Right. And here's the great thing about this show, the Life, Love, and Money show with Summer and Jen, is that you get suggestions. You get tips, life hack tips. You get money hack tips. You get these tips for free, 30 minutes of free coaching every Thursday. And what Jen said is, these are guidelines. These are not set in stone. These are guidelines for you to kind of launch off of, to really utilize, to grow your money, to grow your relationships, to grow your inner strength. So thank you for answering that, Jen, because it's so important that, we throw out tips where people can actually attend to those and say, yep, you know what, that's going to work for me, or that may not work for me, but I can restructure this. So for instance, I'll give you a for instance. When I was really young and I first started out and I got married, I thought 24 was young when we got married. And, I think it's young, and yet I had already established my financial spending patterns at that point. I had been on my own. I had gone to college, gone to some law school. I had done some things. And I thought to myself, okay, I've accrued debt. I've accrued credit card debt. How am I going to come into this relationship and pay off that debt? So I actually went and I found a financial coach, a free financial coach on one of the military bases we were stationed on. And I thought, you know what, if I can get my husband and I in here together and talk about this, we might find some strategy to pay off some of these credit cards, right? So I ended up sitting down, making, as Jen said, make a list, come into the conversation ready with some numbers, ready with having done your research, ready and prepared with maybe some talking points. Because the more specific you are, the better you're going to be in relation to staying within the context of the subject, rather than getting, the conversation blown out of context. So the more prepared you are, you're going to be able to stay on topic. So I ended up going to see this financial coach, and she said, make a list of the credit cards and make a list of how much monthly you are paying. Pay the monthly, but on one of them, maybe the lowest one, start paying more. And you'll see the balance gradually go down, and you'll be able to check the one you paid off out of your budget now. So because you'll be able to pay it off more quickly. And it worked. That worked for us. It was just these little changes of looking at our budget and way of thinking and reframing, that then things didn't feel so out of control. They felt very manageable. So as I said, we just give tips here and we go line by line here so we can give some strategy. The next thing is, like I said, and like Jen touched on, building a budget will reduce a lot of the angst about frivolous spending. It will be a clear financial map for each person in the relationship, and it'll allow each person to be accountable for spending in that relationship. Because what we can find too sometimes are these red flags flipping up. Red flags. Can you talk on what I mean by red flags when it comes to spending, Jen?
Oh, yes. So one of the things I love that Summer talks about often, if you've been following us for a few weeks and seen some of our past episodes, she has touched strongly upon the idea of values. And values are so important, and you're going to hear us talk about that often, because if you don't know your values, if you are not solid on your values, you don't have that North Star guiding you. And why is that so important? Because when it comes to your money, you're going to easily be swayed if you don't have that foundation set within yourself. You're going to base it on like, well, she wants to do this. He wants to do this. She said that. He said this. And you're going to completely forget about what is it that you want. It is not, I want to make this clear. This is not about you being selfish. This is about you establishing what are your values? What are you trying to stay true to? Because that's what's going to guide you to be in alignment with what you value as important. So going back to the relationship, you have to know what that is. You have to know what is so important to you, because, for example, in this question, the thing that concerns me is that there was the part of the question that said, what if she leaves me? And that part is so unnerving, kind of makes me a little anxious for you, the person that asked this question, because it's like, well, so what if she does? Because at one point you have to ask yourself, if you guys are in the similar situation like this, you have to ask yourself, are you going to compromise your values? But if you haven't identified what those values are, you can see clearly like how you're going to be easily swayed. And so the sad thing is you don't have something to adhere to. And if you're going to see somebody like, well, they want me to do this, then you're just, what are you going to just jump to that thing? Well, if she wants me to buy all this stuff, you're going to just jump to that thing. So it's really, really important to adhere to your values and to understand what's important to you. And when we go back to red flags, sometimes as human beings, it's very common for us to ignore those red flags. And those red flags, you're going to see them. They're going to come up like you got that gut feeling. You know what I mean? You got that feeling in your stomach, in your spirit, in your soul, and you're like, something's off. Do not ignore that. Do not ignore that. That is your body telling you that, you know, I need to pay attention to this. There's something that is off. And then you have to go. And then if you have your values in place, you can say like, yeah, you know what? I want to build a future. I want to be financially secure and stable. but this partner that I think that I want to build this future with isn't going in the same direction. And this is that point in time where you have to take a step back and realize, are you still going like this? Or are you starting to go like this? And sometimes we fight so hard to stay here, but we want to ignore those red flags when the other person's going the other direction. So I want to encourage you, pay attention to that, but go back and start with, what are your values? If you were to just be in this little bubble, in this vacuum, what is important to you? What are your values, so that you know what you need to stick to, so that it can be your guide and compass of what's not aligning with what you want to achieve for your financial future and just your life in general.
Oh my gosh, such great guidance. We have a question here from, oh my gosh, did I miss it? Let's see. Did it disappear? Because I want to find it. It says, so what do you do if someone says you have to do this concerning money and it's really against your better judgment?
Ooh.
I think Jen kind of touched on that when she said, are you aligning? Are you aligning as a couple, or are you going your separate directions? And it's okay to kind of evaluate that. It doesn't mean that the relationship is going to end, but how it does mean that you need to come together and understand where you're coming from and that other person's coming from. Now, if you work on this, create a budget, create a strategic plan in relation to whatever it is, your romance, your money, your engagement as a couple, your communication, whatever it is, have a plan. If your plan is not working out, or if you need guidance, I would always say this: seek professional guidance, seek a money coach, seek a personal coach, seek a relationship coach, seek therapist, seek somebody who might be able to help support you in creating new strategy with that partner, or at the very least, making sure that you personally have an understanding of your own values. Because once you do, you can really lay out, like, this is how I'm feeling, and not being judgy or judgmental or coming into the conversation where they're going to put up walls and kind of block out or tune out what you have to say, but rather they're going to break down those walls where you can really come together and have an open conversation, even if that means having some tough conversation around money. Money can be a sticky subject. There are red flags where if you're, like, say, you're hiding what you've purchased, or you're spending money on the down low without your significant other knowing. Is there a term for that?
Yes, we call that financial infidelity. Yes, I know. For some people, that's a new term, but it's,
Right.
I don't know when it was created. I don't know who created it, but it's something that I talk about often, where we as partners, or, you know, we're in a relationship, we feel that we need to hide those purchases, whether that's you feeling guilt and shame, or it could be, or a combination of your partner making you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't want to have to deal with, I don't want to hear their ish. I don't want to hear them complaining because I went to go buy some shoes for $30. There's all kinds of different variations of it, but it's basically when you feel that, or you end up lying or hiding something about your money, and that's you know, considered financial infidelity. But there's different causes for it. Yes.
Right, absolutely. And I think you mentioned before too, during our discussion, financial infidelity happens because of a lack of trust. And it doesn't have to just be on the lack of trust of the partner that it's impacting, but it could be impacting the person who is spending as well. And that's why they feel like they have to hide things. So it could be that it's impacted the relationship from both sides. So you want to be honest about, hey, I'm feeling this way, and this is why I make these purchases and hide them from you. Or, hey, I'm feeling this way about the money going out of the house. But be prepared for that conversation. Make sure you do your research. Come into it with some numbers, some not expectations necessarily, but with some ideas about how you can construct a better relationship together around your money.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's something that's so important for us to take a look at. How are we treating our partner? Are
Yeah.
you putting them in a position? And I'm not trying to put blame on anybody, but I just want to bring this up for you to become aware of our actions, because that's where change starts. We first have to become aware and mindful of things that are going on, because so often we're, even if you look at some of the questions we get, there's a lot of times where it's, what can I do because my this person is doing all these different things, right? And a lot of times it comes down to, we can only control and change ourselves, how we react, what we can do. We can't do everything to make that person change or be something else or whatever we want them to become. And so in a lot of situations, that's the part that's difficult. And relationships take work. Let's not like joke about it. Like it is work. It takes work
Every day, because I say this all the time. Even if I were in a relationship with myself, which I am, but if I had somebody that was exactly like me that I live with, that would bother me. That person would bother me.
And I might get on my own freaking nerves too.
Right. You're like, oh God, go away for a second. So
just leave me alone.
Yes, take your space. Understand your boundaries. Understand your values. So building a budget, and I'm going to go back to this, will reduce a lot of angst about frivolous spending. It will make a clear financial map for each person in that relationship, and it'll allow each person to be accountable for that spending. Take these steps. This will help your foundation of your relationship. It'll give you both a better understanding about your relationship with money and how those behaviors and the mindset around the money was established, what steps you can take together to meet your financial goals as a couple. These are our pearls of wisdom. These are our nuggets. These are your takeaways. Throw up some hearts, throw up some likes, folks, because we want to hear from you. We've gotten some great feedback today from our audience. If you have missed any of our episodes, please go watch the hashtag replay at our YouTube page, The Life, Love, and Money with Summer and Jen. Make sure you share. Make sure you like. Big favor. Make sure you write a review regarding the Life, Love, and Money show with Summer and Jen on our Facebook page. That'll really help us a great deal. We love answering your questions. We want to be of support to you. Remember, these are guidelines. These are solely guidelines to help support you with your life, love, and money matters.
Absolutely. Yes, guys. And if you're watching us live from YouTube, just a reminder, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and hit the notification bell so that you know when we're going on. So we greatly appreciate you being here. If you are catching the replay, make sure you type in hashtag replay and make sure to hit that share button right there to make sure that you share this one that somebody that you love and want to get help. This is just something that we love doing. So we appreciate your support and for being here.
That's right. Now we have our nugget of wisdom.
That's right. All right. Hang on a second. All right, Summer, before we close out, what is your nugget of the day?
My nugget of the day, be courageous. Be courageous. I know that's easier said than done, but today, go make one change. Whether or not that's getting up at a different time, whether or not that's taking a walk that you don't usually do on a daily basis, whether or not that's changing something about your eating plan, whether or not that's journaling, journaling your day, journaling how much water intake you've done. Just be courageous. Try something new. And remember, you don't always have to have a plan. Just take the first step.
I love that.
Thank you. And Jen, what would be your nugget of the day?
I just want to say to be encouraged. I think so often we just allow the heaviness of the day-to-day or whatever situation you're finding yourself in. I feel like you just allow it to get down to and just put so much weight on you. And so I want to encourage you all to be encouraged, and that you realize, like, I can get through this. It's just one day. And I think sometimes we try to tackle so much Just try to get through the one day, the 1 hour, the next minute, the next whatever, and try not to tackle on so much, because it's very common that we get so discouraged. But if you can just take baby steps and stay encouraged, just 1 more hour, 1 more day, that I think is such a helpful thing to do, because we need to give ourselves some grace and to realize like it just needs to be one step instead of trying to take on the entire world. Because there's times where you need to just step back and just like, I can only handle so much at a time.
Absolutely. That's a beautiful nugget of the day. And with those words, we want to thank you so much for joining the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen today. Thank you so much, Jen, for being my wonderful co-host.
Yes, and thank you for being my wonderful co-host. And to all of you, thank you for joining us. Again, if you're catching this on the replay, type in #replay. And with that, we also want to say have an amazing, safe, happy Halloween.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for watching the Life, Love, and Money Show with Summer and Jen. Dr. Summer Watson is the owner of the production and coaching company Core Women, LLC, is a doctor of psychology, has a depth of experience working in both for-profit and nonprofit in human services and mental health, is a professional coach, seminar host, documentary film producer, and an author. Jen Fontanilla is a former financial advisor and now a certified money coach, speaker, and has published 6 books. She has worked with organizations such as the Walt Disney Company, Warner Brothers, Target, Goodwill, and the U.S. Air Force. She loves working with women and helps them master their money and mindset to empower them to build the ultimate life without worrying about money. Join Summer and Jen every week as they go live on the Life, Love, and Money Show on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn.